Far too often we hear about people who rightfully complain they're not getting enough money from their Social Security. It's a fair cop, to be sure. But when one considers this entitlement is on the road to being broke a lot sooner than we might be comfortable with, it becomes a bit more interesting when we uncover your friendly neighborhood government agency overpaying Social Security checks to the tune of $11 billion. $11 billion. Overpaying people who earn too much money to qualify for full benefits. In other words, those who maybe didn't need the money in the first place. Snap that jaw back in place. Let's shovel the waste with the Vice President for Policy and Communications at Citizens Against Government Waste, Leslie Paige. All right, Leslie, great to see you again this evening. And here we go, because from 2005 to 2014, the Social Security Disability Insurance Program overpaid $11 billion, I still love that number, to beneficiaries who earn too much money to qualify for full benefits. That's from the Washington Post, and the headline even says, that might be an insignificant amount. That's tough to say to the American taxpayer.
Well, exactly. I mean, you first have to understand we've got a record number of folks on the Social Security's disability insurance program, kind of the same way we have a record number of people on the SNAP or food stamp program. We have a very high number. This is a $143 billion program. Now, the Social Security Administration is trying to downplay this and say this is just a pittance. It's not very big deal. It's less than 1%. But, of course, they aren't telling you the whole story. What a surprise, right? So the Government Accountability Office went and took a look at this, and what they're finding is that the system is so broken inside the disability insurance program in terms of verifying income and actually finding out if people have moved from disability to work that they can't really measure very well, you know, whether people are getting this money erroneously. But what they can measure is not good. And what they keep trying to remind everyone is that the Social Security Administration itself does not have a systems in place to determine properly and with reliability whether people are moving into the workforce and still continuing to take their disability. And of course, you know, this is a huge problem. And even in spite of the fact that the House has just sort of passed some, the budget deal that we got last week, supposedly contained some reforms of the DI, SSDI. The reforms seem very weak when you look at what the GAO found in terms of management vulnerabilities and real problems.
Now, the word you used, the word you repeated, and that I used at the top, insignificant. Isn't that part of the problem we have here, though? When there's $11 billion and you have somebody sitting there going, well, wait a minute, we're actually $143 billion in arrears, so $11 billion is no big deal. Isn't it fair to say that's the biggest problem with all the government waste? They look at this, they think every dollar is insignificant. That's wrong, Leslie.
Of course it's wrong, but they're very defensive about this. In fact, they have really pushed back. They pushed back against the Government Accountability Office and said, listen, this is nothing. It's a small percentage. We have very few improper overpayments. When in reality, if you actually read the GAO report, what they are saying is that you, over at the Social Security Administration, you are not even able to measure how many improper overpayments you have, and there's mass confusion. This is their term, confusion, not just among beneficiaries who don't understand exactly what they're supposed to be doing here in terms of reporting whether they move from a disability, you know, into a work situation where their income rises. There's huge confusion in the staffs of these basically the case officers that are working this. And, you know, certainly a percentage of this is fraud. It's not all of it, though. Some of it's just mass confusion, but this actually accrues to the disadvantage of the beneficiary as well. Because what can happen is the Social Security Administration can come back after that disability insurance recipient and claw that money back, and because of mistakes that the staff made, they don't have the paperwork and the vouchers and the different pieces of documentation they need to prove that they reported their income properly. So it's chaos. Like they say, turtles all the way down. You know, it's chaos all the way down over there.
Now, here's something else. 2 minutes I got left when it comes down to waste. I'm a military brat. My dad was in the military. I'm a big supporter of the American military around the world. However, the Department of Defense, $43 million to fund a gas station in Afghanistan, and they still can't tell us about whether or not all the workers will let go, if they're still being paid. There's massive waste here. Isn't it fair to say that this is where an awful lot gets stashed away? And We've got to
Oh,
keep
certainly.
our military strong. We have to keep it the top military in the world. But we've got to stop wasting stupid money like this. They do it every day.
This money came out of a task force that was created back in 2009. The idea of this task force is called the Task Force for Business or Stability in Business Operations, something along those lines. Basically, it was money that we were going to pump into Afghanistan to help lure investors in, create businesses, bolster the economy, essentially rebuild that country to a certain extent. This is not just your average gas station, okay? This is not the kind of gas station you and I are used to on a corner. However, it's a big natural gas compressor are available to talk to you, so we can't even tell you where they've gone. I mean, this is so disturbing. This is we've got bipartisan outrage on this one. Claire McCaskill, Democrat of Missouri, Chuck Grassley, Republican of Iowa. They're both on top of this, and they're demanding answers. And Ashton Carter's just saying, our Secretary of Defense is saying, geez, I don't know. Everyone's gone off on their merry way. We've disbanded the task force. We have no idea what happened to this money.
I'm sitting here laughing, but you have to laugh, and it's a dark laugh, too. By the way, everybody.
It's not happy.
No, it's not happy. Don't rely on the major networks to learn about this, because you're going to learn a lot more about this story and others if you go to cagw.org and learn how your money is being spent and misspent as well. Leslie Paige, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to hear more about waste of a different kind when we come back right here on The Hard Line.